Hello and good evening, friends, and welcome to the Divisional Playoff Edition of TXN Sports World NFL Thursday. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined by good old MF Michael Fletcher. We are maybe awaiting the presence of Michael Bullock. If he comes in, we'll catch him up on what he missed. If not, then we hope to have him back with us tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk. Let's quickly get into Super Wildcard Weekend. We're not going to go through each game one at a time, but what we're going to do is, we'll run it down. It started with the San Francisco 49ers defeating the Seattle Seahawks 41-23. Notable performances, Brock Purdy continuing to tear it up, 18 of 30 for 332 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Christian McCaffrey had 119 yards rushing. Brock Purdy had a rushing touchdown. Deebo Samuel, 6 catches, 133 yards, and a touchdown. Ayuk had 73 yards. Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey had touchdown receptions. Diamadre Lenoir had an interception. Defense recorded a total of 3 sacks, 2 by Charles Omenihu and 1 for Eric Armstead. As the San Francisco 49ers took care of business against the Seattle Seahawks 41-23. And we were thinking, oh boy, we're probably going to have another wild card weekend this time around like we did last year. Oh no, this is where the super came in. The Los Angeles Chargers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars defeat the Los Angeles Chargers 31-30. Third largest playoff comeback in NFL history, from 27-0 down to win it 31-30 on a walk-off field goal by Riley Patterson. Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions early, but bounced back with 4 touchdown passes, 28 of 47, 288 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Travis Etienne Jr. had 109 yards rushing. Evan Engram, 93 yards receiving and a touchdown. Christian Kirk had 78 yards receiving and a touchdown. Zay Jones, 74 yards and a touchdown. And Marvin Jones had a receiving touchdown of his own. Defense recorded, it looks like, a total of 3 sacks. Fadukasi and Walker had half a sack apiece. Defensive Josh Allen had a sack, and Roy Robertson Harris had a sack. As the Jacksonville Jaguars, in stunning fashion, 31-30 defeat the Los Angeles Chargers. In what was, without a doubt, the game of the wild card weekend, and a game that, I'm not going to lie, took years off my life because I was so invested in it. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Miami Dolphins 34-31 was the final in that one. Josh Allen, 352 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He did have 2 interceptions. James Cook had a rushing touchdown. Devin Singletary led the team with 48 yards. Stephon Diggs, 7 catches, 114 yards. Gabe Davis, 6 catches, 113 yards, but he had a touchdown. Cole Beasley had a receiving touchdown. Dawson Knox, a receiving touchdown. Defense played very well. Defense recorded 4 sacks of Skylar Thompson. Matt Milano, 2 sacks. Boogie Basham had a sack, and Ed Oliver had a sack. Dean Marlowe and Kaiir Elam had the interceptions. Crazy game here. Buffalo jumped out to a 17-0 lead, and it's like, okay, Buffalo's got this in the bag, nothing to worry about. But then Buffalo started committing turnovers. Miami took full advantage of them and even had a lead on them at one point before Buffalo finally woke up. Kaiir Elam had a big interception that was the turning point of the game, and somehow Buffalo was able to win. And then from there, it was the New York Giants and the Minnesota Vikings. The New York Giants, with the first upset of this postseason, defeat the Minnesota Vikings 31-24. Daniel Jones, 301 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Also had 78 yards rushing to lead the team. Saquon Barkley, 2 rushing touchdowns, 53 yards. Isaiah Hodgins, 105 yards receiving and a touchdown. Darius Slayton, 88 yards receiving. And the defense didn't do anything. No sacks and no interceptions. This was all about the offense in this one, as the New York Giants defeat the Minnesota Vikings in a very exciting game, to say the very least. And then the nightcapper featured the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals winning the game 24-17. Um, a fumble recovery for a touchdown to win it for Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, 209 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Led the team with 39 yards rushing. Joe Burrow had a rushing touchdown. Jamar Chase, 84 yards receiving and a touchdown. Defense recorded a couple of sacks. Mike Hilton and B.J. Hill. And Akeem Davis had the interception. And then we had that fumble return touchdown that won it as Tyler Huntley was extending over the goal line for a go-ahead score, but the ball fell out of his hands. And I believe it was Sam Hubbard who recovered it and took it back to the house for the winning score. So Cincinnati surviving the upset bid. And then we capped it off Monday night with the Dallas Cowboys defeating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-14. Dak Prescott, 305 yards, 4 touchdowns. Tony Pollard, 77 yards rushing. Prescott had a rushing touchdown. Dalton Schultz, two receiving touchdowns, 95 yards, 7 catches. CeeDee Lamb had a receiving touchdown to go with 4 catches and 68 yards. Michael Gallup, 5 catches, 46 yards, and a touchdown. Defense recorded 2 sacks of Tom Brady. Jonathan Hawkins and Micah Parsons had the sacks, and Jaron Kearse had the interception. As the Dallas Cowboys, a lot of people had doubts about them, including a certain someone that we know. But Dallas got the win 31-14 to advance. So I'll say it like this. It was a complete reversal of fortune from the previous Super Wildcard weekend. We had 4 meh games and only 2 good games. This time around, we had 4 great games and 2 meh games. We started with a meh game and we ended with a meh game, but the 4 games in between, all 5-star classics, chock full of Shakespearean drama at its absolute finest. A much more exciting Super Wildcard weekend this time around. And the question is, will this divisional playoff live up to the unbelievable excitement that we had a year ago? Only time will tell, but that's all there is to say on that. So MF, come on in. Super Wildcard weekend, not so super last year, but this year, much different story. This Super Wildcard weekend was indeed super. 4 5-star classics, only 2 duds. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it was pretty good weekend. I will say this, it started out pretty good. The 49er game against the Seahawks, first half was actually really good. Very exciting, but then the second half happened, and that's when San Francisco was like, enough of this. We're not gonna mess around. We're gonna end it right here, right then and there, and they did. They dominated. Obviously, biggest game of the Saturday was Jacksonville versus and the Chargers. And the thing was, with the Chargers, they jumped out to that big lead. We're thinking, oh my God, this is going to turn into a disaster. They're gonna run Jacksonville right out of the building, and all of a sudden, Jacksonville starts chipping away at the lead, and we're like, oh my God, I think they're gonna do this. They're gonna pull this off. Sure enough, they did, and it was an absolute thrilling game, unbelievable outcome. I think we all were like, now that we got the Jags have earned our respect. These are not the same old Jags. This is a great team, and we'll talk about them in a little while as we're getting ready for the divisionals. Buffalo, Miami. I'm a little hurt about this one. This one stung a little bit. Obviously Buffalo ran out, jumped out to that 17-0 lead. I'm like, yeah, here we go. I kind of figured this was going to happen. But then Miami came right back, 17 unanswered to tie the game. A late field goal by Buffalo. We're like, all right, we're right there, right in it. We're in a good spot. We're in a good spot. We're close enough. Then the scoop and score. That's the moment I was thinking, oh my God, we could probably do this. We could actually do this. And I know, Florio, you probably were thinking, oh no, this cannot be happening. No way is this gonna happen. Are they about to pull the upset here? Are they about to knock Buffalo out? The INT that Skylar Thompson threw that led to the touchdown that gave Buffalo the lead. Then they got the 10-point cushion. Then you're thinking, all right, we're probably comfortable now. Then Miami got that late touchdown, and you're thinking, oh, these guys, will you just stay down and give it up? And Miami, we're like, yeah, hell freaking no. We came this far. We're coming right at you. Um, just some horrible clock management by Miami, and that ended up being the death nail. And then a little bit of some controversy about the first down call that sealed it for Buffalo. I mean, the referee said that was a first. I thought he was at least a yard short, but it is what it is. That was a great game. Then the Giants taking down Minnesota. I don't think none of us saw that coming. That was a great game, great battle, no doubt about it. And then Cincinnati hanging on for dear life. Um, that could have gone a number of different ways, but Cincinnati holds on. And then, like you said, Dallas literally playing the perfect game, taking out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was an amazing performance. And now, yeah, here we are, and we're thinking, what is it going to look like at the end? We don't know, but I mean, yeah, Super Wildcard Weekend, heck of a thing going. So nothing more to say, Anthony. It's yours. Let's move on to the divisionals.
Divisional playoffs start Saturday afternoon at 4:30 over on NBC from the AFC side, and we started off with the number one seed in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs, at home at Arrowhead Stadium, hosting the number 4 seed, the Jacksonville Jaguars. 4:30 kickoff on NBC. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark on the call. Kansas City opening up as an 8.5-point favorite. First ever postseason meeting between these two teams. They've never met in the playoffs before. The only such of these 4 games that will be a first-time matchup. The other 3 have happened at least one time before, especially that last one. But anyways, let's get into this. In the first matchup of the AFC divisional round, the top-seeded Chiefs host the 4th-seeded Jaguars at Arrowhead Stadium. Kansas City is attempting to return to its 5th consecutive AFC championship game. Jacksonville in search of its first AFC championship game appearance since the 2017-18 season when they lost to New England. It took a historic come-from-behind performance for the Jaguars to advance to the divisional round as they climbed out of an early 27-0 first-half deficit to notch a last-second 31-30 win over the Los Angeles Chargers. Trevor Lawrence had a first half to forget with 4 interceptions, and he entered the final drive of the half with a 0.0 passer rating. Despite the rough start, he quickly made amends, bouncing back with a 4-touchdown performance to help keep the Jaguars' season alive. Considering the offense turned the ball over 4 times, Jacksonville's defense did all it could to keep it within striking distance. The Jaguars' defense held Los Angeles to just 4.6 yards a play and 3 second-half points, and another well-rounded defensive effort is a must against the Chiefs' offense, leading the league in EPA/play 0.179 EPA. Kansas City got the week to rest up and prep, taking advantage of being the lone AFC team to get a bye for this season. Following its first-round win over Pittsburgh last year, the Chiefs narrowly defeated the Bills 42-36 in an all-time classic divisional showdown. They're hoping for a less stressful divisional round game this year, and since they're pegged as touchdown-plus favorites, there's a good chance this year's game goes a bit more smoothly. The last time the Chiefs were in action, they cruised to a 31-13 road win over the Las Vegas Raiders. Like most games, the offense did essentially whatever it wanted, ending the game with an elite 0.29 EPA/play, 94th percentile. Kansas City also took care of Jacksonville in their lone meeting this season, notching a 10-point home win back in Week 10. The Chiefs jumped out to an early 20-0 first-half lead, despite some miscues, but the Jaguars once again showed their resilience, competing for all 60 minutes. Ken Lawrence and the Jaguars pull off a monumental upset to end the Chiefs' AFC championship streak. The Chiefs lead the all-time series over the Jaguars 8-6. Kansas City's currently riding a 6-game winning streak, most recently defeating the Jaguars 27-17 in Week 10. Jacksonville's last win against Kansas City came back in 2009 when David Garrard threw for 264 yards in a 24-21 win. Saturday marks the first playoff matchup between these two foes as well. The three things to watch for. Number one, Jacksonville's pass rush. Jacksonville has one of the better defensive lines in the league and ended the regular season with the fourth highest pressure rate, 25%, while sporting PFF's sixth highest pass rush grade, 77.8. However, Jacksonville's defensive line struggled against Kansas City earlier this season, as it was one of only two games where the Jags failed to record a sack. Their lack of sacks was mostly a result of only rushing 4, coupled with Patrick Mahomes' elite ability to escape pressure. But if Jacksonville is planning to drop 7 back in coverage to limit explosive plays, it will need to generate natural pressure. The Jaguars will not make it to the AFC Championship if they end the game with 0 sacks again. Number 2, Kansas City's red zone defense. The Chiefs' defense hasn't been efficient in the red zone, as it's allowed a touchdown on 37 of 55 red zone drives this season, 67%, second highest rate in the league. With the Jaguars' offense hitting its stride in the back half of the season, 9th highest EPA per play since week 9. Hold on, I got to pop a video here. Okay, I think I fixed it. Okay. With the Jaguars' offense hitting its stride in the back half of the season, 9th highest EPA/play since week 9, it's most likely going to manufacture a handful of red zone trips. Chiefs defense needs to limit the Jaguars to field goal attempts, otherwise things could get interesting. And number 3, how aggressive will Jacksonville be? Back in week 10, Jacksonville successfully converted on an onside kick to start the game, as it knew it needed to be the aggressor if it wanted to notch a road win at Arrowhead. Knowing Doug Peterson's aggressive nature, there's a chance the Jaguars try more unconventional tactics in an attempt to create a spark. Kansas City's defense likely knows Jacksonville might pull out some trick plays, but a well-executed trick play is still tough to defend. The stat that matters, -5. That was Jacksonville's turnover margin in last week's come-from-behind win over Los Angeles, which marked the first time in NFL playoff history that a team won a game with a -5 turnover margin. Considering how tough it is to commit 5 turnovers in one game, it's likely Jacksonville posts a better turnover margin this week, which should result in an even better offensive showing from the Jaguars. The final score in their Week 10 contest, 27-17, was a bit misleading, as Kansas City had its way for essentially the whole game. The Chiefs' ability to keep Mahomes clean in the pocket should result in another double-digit home victory. Kansas City returns to its 5th straight AFC Championship game. I got Kansas City winning this one. My final score, 33-21. The Kansas City Chiefs defeat the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it'll be close going into the 4th, but I think KC puts it away with a late score. So I'm going to say 33-21. Kansas City gets by Jacksonville, goes back to the AFC Championship game yet again. And MF, if that's the case, the question is, will it be in their home of Arrowhead against Cincinnati, or could it be the first ever neutral site against Buffalo and Atlanta?
Yeah, so I just got to say it's going to be very interesting to say, but yeah, I'm going to go with I think it will be Kansas City. I believe it's going to be Kansas City winning the game as well. I think they're going to be going, very interesting to say the very least. I don't know how it's going to look, but yeah, give me Kansas City to win as well. And yeah, nothing more to say. So I got the Kansas City Chiefs advancing, and there's really nothing more to say. So yeah, Florio, it's yours.
All right, MF, and you'll be leading off the other Saturday game, the Saturday night game, prime time, 8:15 kickoff over on Fox. As we go from the AFC's number 1 seed to the NFC's number 1 seed, the Philadelphia Eagles, back at home at Lincoln Financial Field, hosting their divisional rivals, the New York Giants. On Fox, Joe Davis, Daryl Moose Johnston, Pam Oliver, and Christina Pink. 5th, count them, this is the 5th postseason meeting between these two division rivals. And each team has split. It's 2-2. So whoever wins will have the postseason series lead. First meeting came in a first-round playoff in the 81 season. Giants won in Philadelphia at the old Veterans Stadium, 27-21. Second meeting was the NFC Divisional Playoff, January of 2001 at the old Giants Stadium in the Meadowlands. Giants won that game 20-10. They went on to the Super Bowl that year, as we recall. Then it was the wild card round during the 06 to 2006 season. I believe it was January of 07. That was in Philadelphia at the Link. Philly won 23-20. And the last postseason meeting was the 2008 season. It was January of 2009. Divisional playoff in New York. Philadelphia won the game 23-11. So that's the story there. Philadelphia opening up as a 7.5 point favorite. So those are the schematics. So MF, we started with you. New York Giants, they pulled off one upset. They stole one in Minnesota last Sunday. Now they got to go up against the best team in the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles. Can the Giants pull another upset, MF? Or will it be fly, Eagles, fly to the NFC Championship game? Okay. All right, there's MF. All right, MF. Someone has to give here. Will it be another upset for the Giants? Or will it be fly, Eagles, fly to the NFC Championship game?
Interesting note here, Anthony. When the New York Giants won their wild card matchup, they've actually gone on to win the Super Bowl. They've gone and run the table. The 4 times that they've won their wild card matchup, they've gone on to win it all. The problem is that the Philadelphia Eagles are so powerful on both sides of the ball. The one concerning area I had was in the quarterback position. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Gardner Minshew was very good, but Jalen Hurts brings such a unique style to that team that Philly is without a doubt the most powerful team and can be poised as one of the favorites. And that's why a lot of people had them going to the Super Bowl. I love New York's body of work. And what Brian Daboll has done with this team is unmatched. It's amazing what they've done. It's unreal. But at the end, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Giant fans. I'm sorry, New York. Philly's just too strong and too powerful. I think Philadelphia moves on and they're going to the NFC Championship game. So, Anthony, that's my prediction. The Eagles will fly and they will be the home team for the NFC Championship game.
Fair enough. In the final game of Saturday's divisional round doubleheader, the Giants will travel to Philadelphia to play the top-seeded Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field. New York is coming off an impressive 31-24 road win over the third-seeded Minnesota Vikings last week in the wildcard round. As for the Eagles, this will be their second straight postseason appearance under their head coach, Nick Sirianni. The Eagles have the first seed in the NFC playoffs after finishing the regular season with a 14-3 record and the NFC East division title. The Eagles are looking for their unprecedented third straight win over the sixth-seeded Giants after sweeping the 2-game regular season series. These two division rivals played each other in the regular season finale, where the Eagles won 22-16 to clinch the number 1 seed and the NFC East division title. The Giants did not play their starters in Week 18 as they were locked into their playoff spot. New York will hope for another upset win on Saturday night against one of the best teams in the NFC. Meanwhile, Philadelphia will look to make a deep playoff run after a successful regular season. The Eagles are noticeable favorites heading into this weekend's game against the Giants. However, bettors might not want to take Philly on the spread as they are only 8-8 against the spread this season. Meanwhile, the Giants have been one of the best cover teams on the road as they are 7-1 against the spread, including last week's playoff game against Minnesota. Lastly, the total is set at 48, which is not horrible, as we saw when the Eagles had a healthy Jalen Hurts. They won 48-22 in Week 14 at MetLife. The Eagles lead the all-time series against the Giants with a record of 92, 88, and 2, with Philly winning the last 3 matchups. The last time these two NFC East teams played each other in the playoffs was in the 2008-09 divisional playoffs, where the Eagles defeated the Giants 23-11 at Giants Stadium. It was a defensive battle as Eli Manning and Donovan McNabb each threw 2 interceptions. However, McNabb had a rushing touchdown and 1 touchdown pass that went to Brent Selleck. In the fourth quarter, Eagles also got 3 made field goals from kicker David Akers to help them advance to the NFC Championship game that year. Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni is 13-2 straight up as a favorite of -160 to -475. Giants are 1-4-1 against the spread in division games and 4-5 against the spread after a win this season. Eagles are 11-4 against the spread in all games, where the first half total is between 21.5 to 24.5 points this season. 3 things to watch for. Number 1, can the Eagles establish their ground game against the Giants? If the Eagles want to win on Saturday night and move on to the NFC Championship game, they will need to establish their running game immediately and not become too pass happy. When Philadelphia crushed the Giants in Week 14, Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders ran over New York's defense for 221 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. The Eagles also saw veteran running back Boston Scott get involved in the action as he recorded 33 yards and a touchdown in 6 carries. The Giants' run defense did an excellent job last week against Vikings star running back Dalvin Cook, holding him to 60 yards on 15 carries. The Eagles cannot afford to fall into the same trap and become pass happy against a defense that allowed 144 rushing yards a game, 6th worst in the league during the regular season. If the Eagles are willing to run the ball with Hurts, who returned in Week 18 from a shoulder injury, it will give them an added dimension to their offense and help out Sanders, who has played tremendously this season. Number 2, Daniel Jones versus the Eagles defense. Jones had another monster performance against the Vikings defense last week, as he did it all and helped lead the Giants to their first playoff win in 11 years. The former first-round pick completed 24 of 35 passes for 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, and had a game-high 78 rushing yards. It was a complete performance from the much-maligned starting quarterback, who has done a 360-degree turn under first-year head coach Brian Daboll. Jones will now have to face an Eagles defense that led the league in sacks with 70 and made life tough for him back in Week 14. In that matchup at MetLife Stadium, the 25-year-old quarterback completed 18 of 27 for 169 and a touchdown. He added a rushing touchdown, but was sacked 4 times in the blowout defeat. The Giants' offensive line will need to protect Jones on Saturday, as they cannot afford to be in second and third long against this veteran defense. And number 3, the Eagles' third down defense. One of the keys in Saturday night's game will be how Philadelphia's defense performs on third down against the Giants' offense. Last week, Jones and company were outstanding on third down, as they were 7 of 10 on third down, which helped them keep multiple scoring drives alive. The Eagles' defense cannot let that happen, as this Giants team will take the air out of the ball. This season, the Eagles were one of the better third down defenses in the NFL, allowing opponents to convert at a 38.6% clip, 14th in the NFL. However, that percentage goes down at home to 34.5%, which is great news for Philadelphia heading into their first playoff game. If the Eagles defense can force the Giants offense into a couple of early 3-and-outs, it will go a long way toward the final result. The stat that matters, 60. This was Hurts' quarterback rating in his first playoff game last year against the Buccaneers. Hurts and the entire team struggled in their playoff debut, losing 31-15 on the road. The dual-threat quarterback completed 23 of 43 passes for 258 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Hurts also recorded 39 rushing yards and was sacked twice. All eyes will be on Hurts Saturday, who has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year and will be playing in his second game since injuring his shoulder last month. If Hurts looks and plays like the MVP candidate we saw during the regular season, the Eagles will give themselves a great chance to win. In the regular season, the Eagles defeated the Giants by an average of 16 points, but Eagles fans should not expect a blowout on Saturday night. Daboll's team loves to be the underdog and relishes in that role and will make things tough on the Eagles. However, the Eagles have played outstanding in front of their home crowd, 7-2 during the regular season, giving them that added boost. The Giants will cover the spread on Saturday night, but the Eagles come away with the win thanks to Hurts and the defensive line. MF, I agree with you. I got the Philadelphia Eagles winning this game as well. My final score, 27-21. Philadelphia defeats the Giants for a third time and goes back to the NFC Championship game. Now we move on to the Sunday slate of games. And this is, with all due respect to these 4 games, this is the main event of the divisional playoff weekend as far as I'm concerned. And I know MF would agree with me on this one. From the AFC, 3 o'clock kickoff on CBS. The number 2 seed, the Buffalo Bills, squaring off against the number 3 seed, the Cincinnati Bengals, Highmark Stadium, Orchard Park, New York. Hello, friends. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson, maybe Jay Feely as well. And Buffalo opening up as a 5.5-point favorite. However, this is the third postseason meeting between these two teams, and Cincinnati won the previous 2. The first was a divisional playoff during the 1981 season at the old Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. Cincinnati won the game 28-21. And their other postseason meeting, the 1988 season, they played in the AFC Championship game, also at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. Bengals also won that game 21-10. So covered all the schematics. So here we go. Exactly 20 days after Bills safety Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest and collapsed on the field during a Monday night game in Cincinnati, Buffalo will host the Bengals in the divisional round. Cincinnati looks to return to the AFC Championship game behind Joe Burrow for the second straight year, while Josh Allen and the Bills aim to get back to the AFC Championship game after a one-year hiatus. Buffalo entered the season as the betting favorite to represent the AFC in Super Bowl 57 and started the campaign a crisp 6-1. Cincinnati began its season just 2-3. But the Bengals flipped the script once they got healthy, winning a whopping 9 games in a row. Buffalo, however, is a little lower on that totem pole to win it all, just behind the Chiefs. The Bills finished with one more regular season win than Cincinnati, which might not have been the case if the Week 17 game had been completed. Cincy now rightfully feels cheated out of a divisional round neutral field setting, something that will be granted to Buffalo if the Bills play the Chiefs in the AFC Championship the following week. So with that, these squads have met 32 times, with Buffalo leading the all-time series 17-15. They are 2-2 dating back to 2015, but since he won 3 in a row before that from 2011 to 2015, the Bills won 10 straight from 1989 through 2010, while the Bengals went 5-0 from 1984 to 1989. Josh Allen and Joe Burrow had never matched up before the Week 17 game, which was called after 5:58 due to the Damar Hamlin cardiac injury. While Buffalo was a whopping 7-1 straight up at home this season, the Bills went just 3-5 against the spread at home. Cincinnati went an incredible 12-5 against the spread on the season and 7-2 against the spread on the road. The Bills have been consistently great at scoring all season, averaging the second most points per game on the season, 28.8, second most points per game at home, 32.1, and second most points over the last 3 games, 34.7. The Bengals were no slouches offensively either. Per game, they finished 7th in scoring, 27, and 5th in home scoring, 28.1. However, they only averaged 24.1 points per road game and 24.3 points over their last 3 games. 3 things to watch. Number 1, can Cincinnati limit Buffalo's sizzling hot offense? The Bills have been playing inspired offense over the last 4 weeks, scoring 34 points a game in that span. It's been needed as Buffalo has also surrendered 24 points a game throughout that stretch. That 24-point number also happens to be Cincinnati's average in away games and over the last 3 weeks. So Cincinnati's defense might have to step up big. Don't be surprised if the Bengals do just that. Bengals opponents have eclipsed 18 points just twice since Thanksgiving weekend, and the Bengals have 11 takeaways over the last 4 games. Slowing Allen and his vast arsenal of weapons will be difficult, though. Stephon Diggs remains one of the best receivers in the NFL. Gabe Davis went off for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns in the divisional round last year. Tight end Dawson Knox has a 5-game scoring streak, and Cole Beasley has hit the ground running in his recent return to Buffalo. Number 2, can the Bengals offensive line protect Burrow? Burrow's Joe Cool demeanor precedes him, but his pass protection could haunt him nonetheless this week. Since he could be without 3 of its 5 starting offensive linemen in the biggest game of the season, and Buffalo is coming off a 4-sack win over Miami in the wildcard round. Burrow is 1-4 in the last 5 games in which he's been sacked at least 4 times. And number 3, can Cincy's offense get enough going in Orchard Park? We've already touched on the fact that the Bengals score 4 fewer points per game on the road than they do at home, but they also average 40 fewer rushing yards and 22 fewer passing yards per away game. Cincinnati's top playmakers, namely wideouts Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, will need to come up big in the clutch against Buffalo's secondary, which has been as banged up as any in the NFL this season. And the stat that matters, 3. That's how many turnovers Buffalo has committed in each of its last 3 games. Since the start of the 2022 season, Cincinnati has gone 6-1 when forcing multiple turnovers and a perfect 4-0 when finishing with 3 or more takeaways. As much as Bills fans should be nervous about Josh Allen's ball security, Bengals fans should be doubly concerned about Joe Burrow's pass protection. Home field advantage plays a massive role too, especially with the inspiration of Damar Hamlin's recovery still fairly fresh in the Bills' minds. Remember, Buffalo went 7-1 at Orchard Park this season. Still, Burrow has an embarrassment of pass catching options who can at least keep up with Allen, Diggs, and Davis and make this as memorable of a game as we were all hoping the January 2nd Monday night game between these squads would have been. Usually you don't like going against Burrow, who is 19-3 against the spread in his last 23 starts entering the playoffs. But I expect the Bills to get the last laugh, doing their part to cement the first ever neutral site AFC Championship game in NFL history and set the stages for Allen Mahomes 3. Of course, I got the Buffalo Bills winning this game. My final score, I got Buffalo winning. I'm going to say 27-24. I say Buffalo finds a way, but I will not at all be surprised if the Cincinnati Bengals were to steal it. But the thing is, the weather forecast is calling for some possible snow showers. So that would be a huge advantage for Buffalo because we know how they are with that cold weather and the snow. So we'll see what happens. But as a Bills fan, I will simply say it. You know, last year left such a bitter taste in my mouth, and I'm hoping that this time around that with the game being in Buffalo and not on the road, that Buffalo will find a way, keep this dream alive. If they do, hey, that's awesome. And you know I'll be on pins and needles going into championship week. However, if it ends here, then what can I say? Another incredible year. But win or lose, that Super Bowl window is not closing anytime soon as long as these incredible talents keep coming back. But for right now, I believe in my team. It's not going to be easy. But then again, last week wasn't either. I wouldn't have it any other way. I got the Buffalo Bills winning this game, 27-24, going back to the AFC Championship game for the second time in 3 years. We'll catch Bullock up in a little bit, but first we're going to give it to MF. So MF, you know, as I always say, I mean, but before I do, we were supposed to have this game week 17 in Cincinnati, the most anticipated Monday night game in recent memory. It ended before it even started, basically, because of what happened.
It was we had about like 6 minutes left in the first quarter before everything pretty much grinded to a halt.
Indeed, it did. And in all the years that we've been covering NFL games, we've never, ever had anything like that. We've seen injuries, yes.
Oh, yeah, but never at that magnitude and never that scary and awful. No.
I was scared to death, literally. And you guys know. You all, I mean, we were all shaken up, so shaken up that we decided to postpone the scheduled ridiculously Raw we had scheduled for that night. Yeah. That's how shaken up we were. But thankfully, Damar Hamlin is pretty much all but going to make a full recovery. Praise the Lord for that. That's a praise God moment if there ever was one. So, But MF, you know, before I give it to you, you know I got to do that. I always got to do it. As to Phil Simms, to my Jim Nance, this is what the main event was. This is what the words main event were meant for here, man, because this right here, it's the main event, brother. You don't get no bigger. Simms to my Nance, do that thing I like. Hello, friends.
Yeah, this is going to be a great game. The thing that you also talked about was about the offensive line for Cincinnati. What are they going to look like? 3 of their guys are down. We don't know if the status if they're going to be playing or not. Obviously, you know, going into this, a lot of people are going to say, well, it's probably going to be Buffalo to win and everything else. But Cincinnati, like I said, going into this game, they got a major axe to grind. And they are really angry with the National Football League. And I think it's that in their minds, they cater to Buffalo and to Kansas City, giving them the opportunity, saying that, well, if Cincinnati makes it to the AFC Championship game, that they would not be able to host it, or not be able to get the neutral site if Kansas City gets there, that they won't get the neutral site accolade that Buffalo would get. And they feel like everything was going that they were definitely catering to Buffalo, they were catering to Kansas City, and they got nothing in return. There's even some talk, and even I was watching on the Pat McAfee show, one of their players was saying that this game should have been at a neutral site, that this game should not have been played at Orchard Park, in his mind. So there definitely is a what about us attitude. And going in, I think they feel like they should have gotten a more better opportunity than anything else. If you really think about it, and if you really think about this, gentlemen, Cincinnati was well on their way to beating Buffalo. They were up 7-3. They were moving the ball with no problems against Buffalo on that Monday night game before the Damar Hamlin injury. So if they would have scored a touchdown, they would have been up 14-3 with that momentum at home. I think they would have been well on their way to winning that game, and they should have been the number 2 seed, dropping Buffalo to 3. And then this game would have been in Cincinnati, not Buffalo. But it is what it is. I believe Cincinnati is now at a point, and I even said it last week, they have an axe to grind. They feel like they've been disrespected by the National Football League, by the media, by everybody, minus us. Because I know Anthony came out really fast and like, we never disrespected Cincinnati. Michael Bullock came out really fast, said, I never disrespected Cincinnati or anything like that. And look, I get it. We haven't. But you have to understand, with the Cincinnati Bengals, it's kind of that us or either you're with us or against us mentality right now. And that's why the Cincinnati fans were so ripped. That's why they were fired up. And they've been using that battle cry to take it out on every ever since that news came out. That's why they went after Baltimore. Even though Baltimore played a great game and a lot of people felt like Baltimore should have won that game, the same thing can be said about Buffalo. They were very fortunate that they beat the Miami Dolphins. And the thing was, everybody was saying the Dolphins had no business being that close. A 3-point win for Buffalo in the eyes of the NFL, or in the eyes of everybody, including the media, was shocking. Because with the way Buffalo was playing off the emotion of the Damar Hamlin, with them being at home against a third-string quarterback, and only to win by 3, that, in the eyes of Bills fans, is unacceptable. And I will openly admit it, there was some chinks in the armor of JA-17. He got 2 interceptions, got sacked and fumbled, and that led to the touchdown for the Dolphins. So, yeah, Josh Allen got rocked. He got rattled, and he definitely didn't have his best performance. Yes, he came back and they won the game, but a lot of people put that microscope on him. And that's been the real thing that everybody's been asking is Josh Allen truly ready to ascend to that next level? Just like how they said about Joe Burrow. But Burrow made it to the Super Bowl. He played in the big game. And relatively speaking, he was 1 pass away. If it wasn't for Aaron Donald, he would have had a wide open Jamar Chase down the sideline that could have won the Super Bowl. The thing is that I get it. I know it's in Buffalo, and Anthony, you even said it. Buffalo plays great in the snow. Buffalo plays great in the cold. Cincinnati does too. They are not afraid of the snow. They snows almost all the time because of the fact that they get that lake effect snow from the Lake Erie. They get that snow from that from the Great Lakes. They get that just as much as Buffalo does. So I'm sorry, that's a wash in my mind. As far as when it comes to running backs, I actually gotta say Mixon is probably better than Singletary. Just honestly. The thing is that Buffalo doesn't have all their horses on the defense. Cincinnati does, and you even talked about it. 11 turnovers. And we saw last week 3 by Buffalo in that game against the Dolphins. And Miami's defense was it. They were a feast or famine. They were Jekyll and Hyde. There were some moments where they were really, really good, and then there have been moments where they were not so great. Cincinnati has that us against the world mentality, and I think they're going to do it. I got Cincinnati pulling the upset, ending Buffalo season in the divisionals, second year in a row. Cincinnati knocks off Buffalo and punches their ticket to the AFC Championship game to have a rematch of last year's AFC Championship between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals back at the scene of the crime at Arrowhead in Kansas City. So I got nothing more to say. Michael Bullock, welcome to the party, and it is yours, my friend.
All right, Bullock, come on in. Let's get you caught up here. How about that Super Wild Card weekend, huh? Much better than last year. 4 5-star classics and only 2 MAC games this year, where it was the other way around last year.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good wild card weekend. I mean, and for you, Florio, I mean, your Buffalo Bills got a lot more than what you bargained for. Because,
boy, did we ever.
I mean, going into this game, I mean, with all the injuries that they had, you're like thinking it's going to be an easy day at the office for your Buffalo Bills, but oh boy, that was not the case, my friend, and you were very lucky to have escaped that with a victory.
Very fortunate.
And of course, the big surprise was, of course, the New York Giants going into Minnesota and beating the Vikings. And I gotta say it, Florio, I don't know how you feel about this. Daniel Jones had probably his best game ever. I mean, especially coming in the postseason. I mean, for him to step up that big, I mean, and to go into Minnesota to do that is definitely something. And obviously, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys answering their critics, they got the win, and now they got a date with the San Francisco 49ers. Come this weekend in the divisional round after San Fran took care of business against Seattle. So a really good wild card weekend. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure this year's divisional matchups will definitely be good, but there's no way on earth it's going to top what we saw last year.
Well, only time will tell, as we say. And now let's get your thoughts on the divisional games we've covered so far. First up, your thoughts on the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Kansas City Chiefs.
I mean, come on. I mean, this is an Arrowhead. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, look, it's been a really good story for this for this Jacksonville Jaguars team to be able to do what they did, especially going in and beating winning last week, and but yeah, I think it's going to be a tough go around for them this week. I mean, especially in a place like Kansas City. So, I mean, as much as I would love to see another upset, I just don't see that happening. So, I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs to win this one and advance to yet another AFC Championship game.
Would be their 5th straight. And then from there, the other Saturday game, the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, what the Giants did, like I said, against the Vikings was definitely something here. And the interesting thing going into this is what's going on with Jalen Hurts. Is he 100% healthy now that they had the bye week? So, but I mean, New York will definitely give them some fits here. But in the end, I got the Philadelphia Eagles winning this one, advancing to their first NFC Championship game since the 2017 season, and we all know what happened there.
Went all the way, and the game that MF and I had were just talking about, what I consider, with all due respect, the main event of the divisional weekend, our game of the week, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. Tiebreaker.
This to me is the game of the weekend, and you can only imagine, Floria, what both of these teams are going to be going through. I mean, the last time they were on the same field, together. I mean, we all know what happened. I mean, the whole Damar Hamlin injury took place, and everybody was just so hurt by it. They just flat out canceled the game. So it's definitely some unfinished business, and I don't know. I mean, yes, the game is in Buffalo, and I think it all depends on what happens with the offense of those 3 guys. If they play, I'm going to say, and I'm sorry to do this to you, Florio, but I got to go with Cincinnati. I mean, they still look like that team from what we saw last year, but you know what? I'm going to do it. As much as I want to see Buffalo win it all, there's just something about Cincinnati. They always seem to find a way to overcome certain things. So I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals to win this one, advance to the AFC Championship game, once again setting up a rematch with the Kansas City Chiefs. But if the Buffalo Bills were to win it, I would not be surprised. But you know what? All in all, I mean, I'll say it like this, Florio. As a fan, I want to see the Buffalo Bills do it. I want to see them win this game, and especially to go all the way for Damar Hamlin. But as a pro, I got to go with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. So, all right, Bullock, you're all caught up. So now let's get into the final game of the divisional playoff weekend. That will be on Fox Sunday night at 6:30. From the NFC, the number 2 seed, the San Francisco 49ers, back at home at Levi's Stadium, hosting the number 5 seed, the Dallas Cowboys. Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olson, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi, and I just had something here, but now I lost it. Just give me one moment while I look it up. Okay. San Francisco opening up as a 4-point favorite. One of the oldest playoff rivalries of all time. This is the 9th, count it, 9th postseason meeting between these two teams. Dallas leads the postseason series 5-3 against San Francisco. First was the 1970 NFC Championship game in San Francisco. Dallas won 17-10. They met again, 1971, NFC Championship, only in Dallas. Dallas won 14-3. The following year, they met yet again, 1972, division in I want to say the divisional round in San Francisco. Let me double check my notes here. A divisional playoff. Yes, that is correct. It was a divisional playoff, 1972 in San Francisco. Dallas won 30-28. Then it was one of the greatest NFC championship games of all time. 1981 AFC title game, the catch, Joe Montana to Dwight Clark in San Francisco. 49ers won 28-27. Then they met in the NFC championship game in 92, also in San Francisco, but Dallas won 30-20. They met in the title game the following year yet again in 93 in Dallas. Dallas won 38-21. 94, another NFC championship game in San Francisco this time, but the 49ers finally got the win 38-28. And their most recent meeting last year, Super Wildcard Weekend, the game of Super Wildcard Weekend last year in Dallas. San Francisco wins 23-17, which featured that very wild and crazy and chaotic ending. So there isn't much anything. I don't think there's anything else left to say on this. So MF, you were on track to lead off on this one anyway. So here we go. Dallas, San Francisco for the 9th time in postseason history. Who's joining Philly in the NFC Championship game?
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting matchup because of the fact that, look, for 1 week, Dak Prescott didn't have to answer any of the questions about, his struggles or anything else. He literally played the perfect game by throwing over 300 yards, getting the 4 touchdowns, dominating Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He really made that defense look absolutely horrible. He embarrassed them. There was a lot of people that thought Dak was going to play horrible. Stephen A. had even the nerve to tell Dak Prescott's dad that was in the audience, your son is throwing 2 INTs in the game. Like, that was absolutely ballsy by Stephen A. And boy, did he regret that mistake, because not only did he become the butt of the jokes by so many Cowboy fans, but became a lightning rod for Swagoo. And boy, did he get Pearl Harbored the next day. Basically, he had to sit there and take it, as they would say, while Swagoo and Keyshawn Johnson was giving him the business, as we would like to say. Of course, you also heard Skip Bayless basically puffing out his chest on Shannon Sharp and letting him know where Dallas is ranked on that game. And relatively speaking, Dallas played, like I said, the perfect game. Tony Pollard was really good. So was Ezekiel Elliott. You had a great receiving core. CeeDee Lamb had an absolute monster touchdown in that game that was absolutely ridiculous. I couldn't even believe some of the stuff he was doing in the game. And defensively, they were getting to Brady. They were making his life living hell. They try to do that the same thing. The thing is that now you're going up against an animal like the 49ers. And I'm going to be real honest with you, gentlemen. San Fran is my pick to go to the Super Bowl. Right now, if you ask me today what my Super Bowl matchup is, the Cincinnati Bengals from the AFC, the San Francisco 49ers of the NFC. That's my Super Bowl matchup. That's the teams going into the playoffs. This was my matchup because of everything that went down, especially the disrespect, as I felt like the NFL was leaning towards Cincinnati. And I just thought that the Niners is the most complete team out of all the teams in the NFC. I got the 49ers not only winning this game, but winning this pretty comfortably. Brock Purdy has been an absolute revelation, a great story. We've been talking about the story about Mr. Irrelevant and what he's been doing, but now he's been playing an incredible game, and he's done a great job servicing as the quarterback in that situation. So I feel like they've been amazing. I think he's done really well. And at the end of the day, truthfully and honestly, I do believe that when it's all said and done, I do believe that it will be a victory for. I do believe that when it's all said and done, that's it. It's over. I got the 49ers winning this game, and there's really nothing more to add. So I got San Francisco winning and advancing to the NFC Championship game. Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, for once, I mean, Dak Prescott didn't have to answer the critics because he put up a really good game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that defense really made it tough on Tom Brady. And now they're going to have to try to repeat that performance against the 49ers. I mean, this is a type playoff game. I mean, between two old school teams that, like you said, ninth time they're going to be meeting in the playoffs. You could think of so many great battles they had in the postseason, and now they're going to add to it. And I'm with you, Fletch. I mean, no disrespect to Philadelphia and what they're doing. I think San Fran is the team that's going to come out from the NFC to be in the Super Bowl because they got the complete team. You got what they can do defensively, especially by a guy who I think is going to be the defensive player of the year in the NFL in Nick Bosa. And of course, right now, this is all about Brock Purdy. I mean, Mr. Irrelevant, well, if he continues the way he's playing right now, they're going to have to change him to relevant because that's the way he's playing right now. And yeah, so I think this is where the run ends for the Dallas Cowboys. I got the San Francisco 49ers winning this one. So it's yours, Florio.
Many of this year's NFL playoff games have been filled with storylines so far. It's that way every postseason. The overarching theme of the Cowboys at 49ers divisional round tilt this weekend, perseverance. Both squads have dealt with injuries, including losing their respective quarterbacks for significant amounts of time. But just like Muhammad Ali, whose birthday was this week, both franchises came back stronger after getting knocked to the ground. And now I'm going to, give you my thoughts on what we all agree should be a classic NFC slugfest. The 49ers, who dealt with myriad injuries on both sides of the ball this season, most notably lost opening day starting quarterback Trey Lance with an ankle injury in week 2 and veteran Jimmy Garoppolo with a foot in week 13. Difference-making second-year running back Elijah Mitchell had also hit the IR 2 different times with MCL sprains, which stud wideout Deebo Samuel has also battled throughout the campaign along with a high ankle sprain. Needless to say, many counted San Francisco out after the Jimmy G injury, even after general manager John Lynch pulled off the trade of his general managerial career by landing Christian McCaffrey ahead of the deadline. But it was the next man up at QB, not just the addition of CMC, who truly revitalized the Super Bowl hopes of Niners Nation. Rookie Brock Purdy, widely referred to as Mr. Irrelevant for being the last pick of the 2022 NFL Draft, has been a revelation under center for Coach Kyle Shanahan's complex offensive system. When Jimmy G went down versus Miami in Week 13, San Francisco had been riding a modest 4-game winning streak. Since Purdy took over, that streak has grown to an unfathomable 11 games and counting. The Cowboys know a little something about resilience and about bouncing back from injury. They lost their franchise quarterback, Dak Prescott, to a thumb/hand injury at the tail end of an ugly loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in Week 1. Prescott missed 5 games, but Dallas remarkably went 4-1 behind backup Cooper Rush during that stretch. And when Dak was back, it was all systems go. The boys proceeded to win 6 of their next 7 games and 8 of their next 10, ultimately finishing 12-5, one game behind the 13-4 49ers. While Prescott Purdy might be the central talking point of this matchup, these squads are two of the more complete rosters competing in this year's postseason. Both quarterbacks have insane arsenals of offensive weapons at running back, wide receiver, and tight end, as well as super offensive lines. And both squads have upper echelon defenses. San Fran ranking first in points and yards allowed, and Dallas ranking fifth in points and top 12 in yards. Both teams finished the season top 8 in sacks and interceptions. This divisional round tilt seems to be flying under the radar a bit, drowned out by the buzz behind the Bengals, Bills, and respective number 1 conference seeds, Philadelphia and Kansas City. But this could go down as one of the better playoff games of the modern era, not just this postseason. These squads have always seemed to play each other close, with Dallas narrowly leading the all-time series 19-18-1. Before San Francisco knocked off the boys 23-17 in Super Wildcard Weekend last year, Dallas had won 3 straight meetings dating back to October 2016 and 7 of 9 going back to 2001. Before that, you can basically go by eras. The Niners dominated the Joe Montana years, then the Cowboys crushed it during their respective dynasty years. Then Steve Young and the Niners got the best of Dallas again in the mid to late 90s. We shall see if Purdy Prescott becomes the next great rivalry in this all-time series. This is a matchup of spread-dominant squads. San Francisco has gone 12-6 against the spread this season, while Dallas has gone a respectable 11-7. These teams represent 2 of the 7 best cover rates in the NFL since the 2022 season kicked off. The Niners are a dominant 8-2 against the spread at home this season, while Dallas is just 5-4 against the spread on the road. The over has slightly edged the under in San Francisco's games this year, 10-8, as well as its home game, 6-4. Conversely, the under has gone 5-4 in Cowboys away games since the start of the season. 3 things to watch. Number 1, can San Francisco's top-ranked defense slow down the Cowboys? Dallas has enjoyed a sizzling hot streak offensively, finishing the season second in rushing touchdowns and top 10 in rushing yards and passing touchdowns. Prescott's midseason return from injury obviously kicked things into extra gear, as did the activation of tight end Dalton Schultz and wide receiver Michael Gallup from IR. But the Cowboys' 3-headed attack of wideout CeeDee Lamb, veteran TD gobbler Ezekiel Elliott, and breakout Pro Bowler Tony Pollard served as the real catalyst of Kellen Moore's offense before and after Prescott's absence. Since Week 8, Dallas has scored a whopping 32.5 points a game, and that's including a 6-point clunker in Week 18, with the Cowboys likely not even trying so they could retain the number 3 seed to play the hapless Buccaneers in the first round. San Francisco ranks number 1 in points and yards allowed, with Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and Jimmy Ward leading 3 dominant levels of an all-time defense. DeMeco Ryans' unit will need to be at its very best this weekend. Number 2, can Brock Purdy keep up his incredible run? Nobody, and I mean nobody, in professional football expected Purdy to win 7 games in a row. He has blown the collective minds of pundits everywhere, perhaps most notably because of his calm, collected demeanor in the pocket. In many ways, his remarkable run reminds us of reigning AFC champion quarterback Joe Burrow, in that he never seems to get rattled and always comes up clutch. Of course, having Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell in the backfield doesn't hurt, nor does having Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and elite tight end George Kittle a target. Kyle Shanahan remains the true star of this organization, though. His multifaceted offensive attack remains one of the most often imitated, rarely duplicated systems in the NFL, and can confuse even the most dominating defenses. And number 3, can Dallas put together some timely stops and force some key turnovers? The Cowboys' strong second-half run was not just fueled by elite offense, but also by Defensive Player of the Year candidate Micah Parsons, ball-hawking cornerback Trayvon Diggs, and Dan Quinn's defense. Case in point, from Week 13 to Week 16, the Cowboys had a whopping 14 takeaways. They have held 7 different opponents to under 98 rushing yards since the 2022 season started, and 10 different Dallas opponents have failed to reach 20 first downs in a game. The biggest factor has obviously been turnovers. Dallas ranked number 1 in the NFL in takeaways, 33, and turnover percentage, 16.2%. Both the number 1 squad in terms of turnover margin this season was the 49ers, plus 0.8, who led the boys by the hairs on Dan Quinn's chin, plus 0.6. Stat that matters, 34.6. That's how many points San Francisco has averaged since the legend of Brock Purdy began back in Week 13. The Niners are averaging just under 400 total yards a game during that 7-game span, while maintaining a dazzling plus 14 turnover margin. Dating back to the 2020 season, Dallas has gone 0-5 when allowing over 34 points. This should be a fantastic game, and it's surprising how few people are taking the Cowboys in the points. Given both squads' depth from top to bottom and playmakers on both sides of the ball, we expect this one to come right down to the wire. And while San Francisco deserves the edge for its home field advantage, slightly superior overall defense, and more explosive running game, nobody should be surprised if Dallas covers the spread for the 12th time in 19 chances since the start of the 2022 season. But San Francisco wins, and the Brock Purdy tour rolls on. Purdy mania will continue to run wild. San Francisco wins. My final score, 27-24. San Francisco defeats Dallas. So with that will put the bow on this divisional playoff edition of TXN Sports World NFL Thursday. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in as always. We'll be back with you tomorrow night at 11 p.m. immediately following Rampage over on MF's channel, Brace Fan 95, for another edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk, where we will review Friday Night SmackDown and AEW Rampage. And then Monday night, we kick off Royal Rumble Week right here on the Tone 25 with Ridiculously Raw. Raw is 30. And it's gonna be all about Raw is 30. No Tony's take. I want to give as much time as we can to Raw is 30 with all due respect. So it's going to be all about the big Raw is 30 show. You already know what's happening on that show. Wednesday night, we got Wednesday Night Madness hosted by good old MF Michael Fletcher. NXT and AEW Dynamite as always. Next week, the Conference Championship edition of TXN Sports World NFL Thursday. We'll recap the divisional playoffs, of course. And then we will preview the NFC Championship game and the AFC Championship game. That will be next week. And then we go from there. So that's it. So until tomorrow night, for the Cerebral Smack Talk over on MF's channel, Brace Fan 95, this is Anthony Florio here for good old MF Michael Fletcher, for Michael Bullock, and of course, in spirit, always and forever, the First Lady Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Friday, and until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, you've been watching the divisional playoff edition of TXN Sports World NFL Thursday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long. Bye, everybody. Bye.